Welcome to part 2 of the tutorial for the Wayfarer Sling Backpack. This part of the tutorial will go from the sewing on the narrow gusset to the completion of the bag. Now we're moving on to our narrow gusset. So for this section, we'll need our narrow gusset exterior and lining. I'm just going to put lining aside for now. We are going to need one of our long zippers and a zipper slider. So before I start, I'm going to put the zipper slider on. So like usual, I see that my right side is higher than my left as far as the coils all the way down. So I'm just going to split this and I'm going to put my zipper slider on at the top on the right side because it started off the right left. So now I'm going to pull the zipper slider up so that it try and get that even. So it's got 1, 2, like back and forth, and I've got it. Not one of my better instructions for the zipper, but I've already been through a few zippers in this tutorial. So anyways, so now that I've got that, I'm just going to melt the ends a little bit more. We want to take we need one of the short ends and our zipper, and I want to place them right sides together. I'm going to put the clips in it, and then I'm going to baste with I've got my 5-stitch length, and I'm going to baste. I've got where did it go? Got my fabric just in case I need to get up over the zipper. So I've basted it on. I'm going to do the other side the same. So keep it all flat. We don't want any twisting, so we want to make sure that it's not twisted. So that's how it should look. So all the loop, and I'm going to come around to this end and I'm going to put clips in it. All right, so now that those are on, we want to take our lining piece and we want to put it right side to wrong side. So we want to put it on the opposite side of the zipper. So if the zipper wasn't there, they would be right sides together with the exterior. And we'll do the same thing on the other side once I stitch this in place. Now, the instructions give the seam allowance that you need to use, and they say use that exact seam allowance so we can close this loop. So I'm going to try and get it exact. And I'm putting it on a 3.5 stitch length because I actually want to join this. All right, now I'm going to make sure everything is still flat. Line up the other short end just the way we had it before. So right side up, right side down, and then lining right side down. All right, so now we've got that. We've formed the loop, remove my clips, and then we can pull it right side out. So we want to pull the zipper away from the lining and the exterior panels on both sides, but I'll do this side first. So then I'm going to clip, and then I want to top stitch right along there. So switching to a 5-stitch length. Okay, now do the exact same thing for the other side. So we want to make sure everything is lying flat. Pull the zipper out from the lining and exterior pieces. I'm going to put some clips in it, and now I'm going to top stitch. All right, so I'm going to stitch around all of the edges. I started doing it from the right side, but this faux leather is quite stretchy where the waterproof canvas is not. So I'm going to stitch with the stretchier side down so the feed dogs can help bring it through. So hopefully we don't have a huge lump of extra fabric in the end. So here we go. All right, so now we're going to be working with the wide gusset top, the last zipper that we have, and then we will have the wide gusset piece. We're going to start with the wide gusset top with the exterior of that. Now what we want to do is put the zipper on in here. Also, according to the pattern, so I had just pulled one zipper for this section, but it says if you're putting on the water bottle holders, then you should have two. So I'm going to make this a double. So anyways, I've got my zipper and I've got this. I haven't put those on yet. If I can avoid putting them on till after, I'd be quite happy. All right, so the first thing we need to do, we need to find the centers of both the zipper. So I'm going to just fold it in half, and I'm going to mark with my air erasing pen the center of that. So far, I'm only going to find it on the one side. And then we also want to find the center of this piece. So I'm going to fold it in half. Doesn't matter if it's right sides together or not. And I'm going to put a snip in it. So now I've got the center of this piece and the center of my zipper. I'm going to put them right sides together. So the zipper face down on top of this exterior top piece. And I'm going to line up the marks and I'm going to put a clip in it. So then I'm going to grab the one end and put it right down to this corner here, and I'm going to put a clip in it. And then I'm going to bring this other one down to this corner and put a clip in it. So we've got this for now. We need to work this edge in. All right, so if you place this in a curve, it should actually line up. So we may end up clipping things in place with this piece curved. So don't forget we have a seam allowance. So as long as it's flat at the seam allowance, we should be good. So I'm going to start clipping along here. I'm going to just go to the center, put a clip. Use as many clips as you need to get that on. I am going to base this in place. All right, I've got this basted on. Everything went okay. It looks a little wavy, but that's fine. We're worried about the seam allowance in where it sits at the seam allowance, and it feels pretty flat. So the next thing we need to do, this would probably go easier if I didn't have the second side of the zipper on. We'll see if this works or not. So I'm going to put some marks across the back. Oops, I probably shouldn't do it in silver marking pen. So I'm going to put some marks across there. I want to make sure that I've got spots all lined up when I put the zipper back together. So I'm putting in a bunch of marks, and I want to make sure that all these lines are matched up when I go to put it back together. So I'm going to take this apart. Don't do it if you don't feel comfortable, but I just think it'll help a little bit, keep it a little flatter. So now I'm going to take my lining piece, which is the waterproof canvas, and I'm going to flip it right sides together, matching up the edges. So I've got the exterior right side up, the zipper right side down, and the waterproof canvas right side down. So I'm going to clip along this edge. If you are using a stretchy fabric, you should start in the center and work your way out. My waterproof canvas is not stretchy, so I knew it would be probably the right size, although my underneath one is stretchy. So I should have probably started in the center and worked my way just like we did the other one. So start in the center, go to the ends, put them in, and then fill in the gaps. But it worked out okay right now. So this is what I've got, a zipper sandwich. I also put on my zipper foot, and because I want to get as close to the seam allowance that's suggested in the pattern as possible. So I'm going to sew it with my, even though we've got the zipper attached to it, I'm a little afraid it's going to stretch. So I'm going to do it with my waterproof canvas on the top. And I have it on a 3.5 stitch length. So we're just going to go slow and work my way around. If I need to, I will use my stiletto to help keep things together and press down. So here we go, back stitching, beginning and the end of the seam allowance. All right, so now we've got this all stitched. We're going to pull the zipper out and flip everything wrong sides together. So I'm going to match up these edges of my lining and my exterior, and I'm going to clip together. All right, now that we've got these things clipped back, we are going to continue to pull on the zipper to pull it right side out, so away from this, because we're going to now top stitch along here with the 1/8 of an inch. So I'm switching it to a 5 stitch length. I'm actually going to switch my foot back to my regular foot. All right, so now I'm going to go around and I'm going to top stitch along this edge about 1/8 of an inch, and while I am gently pulling this out from the seam. So I've got it on my 5 stitch length already. So here we go, back stitching beginning and the end of the seam. All right, there we go. We've got it top stitched on. Now I need to go through and add the rest of the zipper because I took it off to make it easier. Now I need to add it back on. So I've got 2 zippers. I'm going to add one from one side and one from the other. And I'm going to try and match my lines up. Yeah, that's okay. Let's continue to see. I'm going to zip it up all the way around and pull the zipper thing off. Yeah, I think my lines match up pretty well. So now I'm going to just pop one of the zippers on each end. So this is when I say that it's not even. You can see this, it's angled. It's not pointing right at the teeth. And this side has more of a lump than the other. So this side is too high. And that looks better. So now I'm going to the other side, and the right side needs to be up higher. Pop it on, and that looks good. So now I've got my double zip on there. All right, so I needed to get that on before I could continue. Make sure you've got your zips on before continuing on to the next step. So now that we've got this all done and you have your zipper pulls on, make sure you have those on. If you're putting the pockets on, make sure you've got the double zips. We're going to take the exterior wide gusset bottom pieces. So this is my exterior, and I'm going to put it face down at this end, so over top of the zipper and the gusset top piece. And mine looks like it's got a little bit of extra, so I'm leaving my overhang on the outside, not on the zipper side. It's I find it a little more difficult to cut things down on the zipper side than it is on the outside. So I'm just moving some of these clips over. So I'm going to baste this in place. I don't believe it says to baste, but I'm going to baste anyways. And there you can see the overhang there. So 5 stitch lengths. Okay, so now I've got that basted on. I'm going to take the lining piece and put it right sides together with the lining side. So this was right sides, the exterior gusset bottom was right sides together with the exterior gusset top. I'm putting the exterior gusset, or the interior, the lining gusset bottom, right sides together with the lining. And again, I'm going to clip it in place. And now we're going to stitch it together with the exact stitch or seam allowance given in the pattern. So I guess with creating these circles like this and the narrow one, it's important to get the right seam allowance so that you can have the right circumference. All right, so I'm moving it to a 3.5 stitch length. And I'm going to backstitch beginning and the end of the seam. All right, so now we've got that. We want to do exactly the same thing to the other side. We're also going to, once we're done the other side, well, I'm going to do this one now, but you're going to do the same for the other side. We're going to flip it over like this, and we are going to top stitch. 5 stitch length. Make sure that these parts are pulled apart around the same amount. We'll go ahead and do the same for the other side. And again, we want to put exteriors to exterior and lining to lining, and I'm going to match up this edge, the inside edge, with my zipper. So if there's any excess, it comes off of this side. All right, now that we've got that all together, we need to stitch around. Let me just double check. Yeah, we're going to stitch around this side here, all the way around that side, and then just this side with the zipper. So we're not going to stitch along here in the zipper. We're going to stitch that. I'm going to start with the short side, so the side with the zipper. I'm going to put mine inside out so that I'm stitching with the waterproof canvas on top, and we are just going to baste them all together. There we go, all top stitched, and I'm going to set it aside for a few minutes to move on to the next step. Still working with the gusset, the wide gusset. There's a couple things we need to do. We're going to add our mesh pockets, but first we need to check to make sure that the base that we're putting on, so this is the base, we put it together way back at the beginning in the prep stage. Unfortunately, my clips put some divots in there, and I've tried steam to get it to come out, but it's not working. So what we need to do is, I found the center of the bottom. So I matched up these edges of the side seams, came down and took a snip out, did the same for the other side. So now I've got that, and I found the center of the base piece, and I've put little snips in those as well. So I'm going to match up the center lines here. I've taken a pen. I'm going to put clips in. Actually, I'm going to put the other clips in and hope they don't mark. So I'm going to put these clips in here. I've actually taken a silver marking pen, and in the seam allowance I have put some marks, because we want to make sure that when we put the what is this, the water bottle pocket on, that the bottom part is going to be hidden under this. So we want to place this, there's measurements in the pattern of how far up we want to place this water bottle holder. Just got one side for now, so I've measured it. It says it's supposed to come above the seam line. So we're supposed to end the water bottle holder above the seam line. So I've made the mark, and I'm going to clip it in place here, and then I'm going to clip all down the sides. So I've matched that up. So I see that my base should be, like, I should be able to hide the bottom inside the base. So I should be good. I'm going to take the base off, at least on this side. I'll double check again on the other side. So before we baste this side of, like, the zipper or the water bottle pocket in place, we have to make sure that it's going to come below where the base is going to be. So now I'm going to puff it up in the center and arrange to have this side. All right, put my line on my zipper and erasable air erasing pen, and I'm going to clip it at that location and then start clipping all the way down. Here we go. So now I'm going to just change my, I'm just going to go over and stitch, baste both sides of this pocket on. I'm not going to, you don't need to watch me for this. You've seen me baste things on. So I'm just going to go ahead off camera and do that, and then we'll come back. While I was off camera, I added the other side. So now we need to take all of the extra that we have, put it towards the middle, and then flatten it out. So we're making a pleat here. We are going to baste across the bottom of this panel. All right, I have both of those pleats stitched in. It's not perfect, but with a bottle in there, you won't notice anyways. So now we're going to move on to the base. So I had already figured out the base, the center for the base. And basically, I'm going to match up the notches. I'm going to put clips in it on both sides because I want to keep it straight. We are going to top stitch down either side of this base to hold it in place. Like I said, we're going to top stitch this on and baste. Since basting and top stitching are all about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge and a 5 stitch length, I'm just going to go around the whole thing like a box. So, and I'll back stitch in the seam allowance. So now it's time to add the strap anchors to our exterior back panel. In the instructions, there are measurements that you need to measure because that's where the bottom corner of our strap connect anchors are going to be. So I clipped them up here just because this is the side I want up. So your strap connectors need to have the D-ring pointing upwards, not like downwards. You want them pointed up. So we're going to point them up, and I'm going to match up the bottom corner of the anchor with the mark that I made before. I just used a little silver marking pen in the seam allowance so that it doesn't matter if it comes off or not. And I will do the same for the other one. Okay, got those on. And now I'm going to baste them on the back panels. So our typical 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and a size 5 stitch length. Now the pocket doesn't get in the way, but if you feel better just moving the pocket out of the way, go for it. I had originally done that, but it doesn't really need to come out of the way. I'm just used to moving pockets out of the way when I'm stitching things. All right, we've got these strap anchors on. Now we can set this piece aside and move on to the next section. All right, in this section, we are going to be attaching the other part of our side release buckle to the front of the bag. So you're going to need your webbing, the male part of your side release buckle, your very front panel with your pocket if you've put it in, your overlay if you've put it on, the backing part of that panel, and then the last, this is the exterior panel B. This is panel B. So, but that won't come for a little bit, so we'll need the other stuff first. Your side release buckles might have a right and a wrong side. I don't think mine do. I just have this piece here that it needs to come over top of. So I'm going to treat this, well, right now I don't need to worry about it. I'm just going to baste the ends here. So yeah, I've got my 5 stitch length and I'm doing a basting right at the very edge. Now we need to worry about which side is the right side and which side is the wrong side. So we want to grab our front piece, and I'm going to stick this like that. And now we want to place the webbing with the buckle facing wrong side up. So if I think this is the wrong side, I'm going to put this the wrong side up. I'm going to hang it off the edge. We're going to center the buckle in here. That looks, I'm visually centering it, so that looks good. So I'm going to clip this in place. I'm going to baste the webbing now to the front panel. Okay, there I've got it basted. The pattern suggests if you have a name tag, logo, nameplate, whatever, and you want to put it on the front, make sure you've got it on before now, especially if it's up in this part, because now we are going to take the other exterior front panel and we are going to put them right sides together. And we are going to match up all of these edges. So up here, I'm going to clip along at the top and then these sides. You may notice I put in a lot more clips than I probably need. I find I need to with this tabletop. Things get stuck on the edge and fall off. So I'm happy to clip things, put lots of clips in it to make sure they stay. All right, now that we've got them sandwiched right sides together and the webbing is sandwiched in between, we're going to stitch along these two curved edges and the top. So we'll go from this side up, across, and down at the recommended seam allowance, with the recommended seam allowance. So I'm switching to a 3.5 and back stitching at the beginning and the end of the seam. And I will also be adding extra stitches. Like I'm going to have reinforcing stitches up here. So here we go. All right, I'm just going to double check. It looks like I've caught everything. So now I'm going to find my scissors. Got my scissors, and I'm going to trim in here. Actually, I'm going to use pinking shears for the curve. All right, now I'm going to cut these corners a bit, but I'm not cutting my webbing. Okay, so now that I've got that, I'm going to turn this right side out. So we've got a little handle we can hold on to. And don't pull too hard, but it should be secure if you've stitched it as much as we're supposed to. Pull that out. And now I'm going to use my star screwdriver to poke out some of the corners right up here. Don't want to poke too much because I don't want to poke a hole in it. There we go. I'm going to roll the edges between my fingers and try and get a nice crisp curve on it. And I'm going to put clips in it. So I'm going to do this. I'll fast forward through it so you don't have to listen to this. All right, got it all clipped. Now I'm going to top stitch these two curved sides and across the top. All right, now that we've got this all top stitched, you still have a choice if you're going to birth this or if you're going to bind it. So I'm going to birth this part. So I'm going to follow the instructions for the birthing method at this point. So there are two sections: assembling backpack birthing method and binding. So for the first few steps, I'm going to be following this the birthing method. So I've got everything aligned here. I'm going to grab my other body panel, exterior body panel, and I'm going to put the exterior front on top of this. I'm going to make sure I've got things centered Before I do that, because the underneath parts are slipping, I'm just going to baste the edges so it stays as one piece. So I'll quickly do that and then we'll move on. Okay, now we want to take, so we've got our front panel and our exterior body panel, and we are going to put one on top of the other, and we are going to center them. So I'm going to clip it in the center and then start clipping around the curves. And then when we get to the top here, I'm going to come up to the top here, and this part is a little bit wider. It's to allow for some extra space in the front pocket area. So I'm going to, as I clip around this, I am going to be lining the side of the front panel with the side of the exterior body panel. So just like that. And then come to the other side, and you can see it's overhanging a bit. So I'm going to basically pop this center part up and bring it in there. So we're lining the sides up as well. Okay, so now that we've got that, I'm going to baste these pieces together. And there we go. You might need to pop it up as you go to make sure that the edges are aligned. All right, now we're going to take this front panel that we just basted all together, and we are going to, first, we're going to tuck in this flap into its pocket, and we are going to find the center top and center bottom, which is a little difficult when you have something in the way. All right, so this isn't going to be a great clip. There's a lot of fabric down here, so I'm just going to put a straight snip, or not. Maybe I'll just use a marking pen. So there, I silver marking pen. I've marked the center of that. Tuck this back in. And then I'm going to mark the center of this top piece. I'm going to line up the edges. Or is it better to go this way? Probably would have been better to mark the center of the top panel, or of this back panel, before we put it together. But anyways, so there we go. I folded it, pinching it there, and I'm going to put a snip in that. And then when we cut the pieces out, there should have been some snips in it to show where the zipper stops and ends. I'm going to go get my pattern piece, and I'll be right back. And actually, before we go, I'm just going to do the centers on this. So the centers on this will be matching up those edges. And this is the narrow gusset piece, if I didn't say it before. All right, and then center of the zip. I am going to mark it in, you probably won't be able to see this, but I want it to go away, so I'm using the air erasing pen for this one. Okay, I've marked my piece with the stop marks from the pattern piece, so it might be a little easier to see on the back. I marked it on the back. I've put snips in them, and I've also put some silver marking pen in the on the front piece. All right, so now I'm going to take my narrow gusset. I'm going to flip it right side out, or inside out, and I'm going to find my mark on my zipper and my center notch on the top of the panel, and I am going to put a clip in it. And then I'm just going to do one on either side. I'm going to come to the bottom of my panel, and I'm going to match the bottom mark notch up with the panel notch on the panel, and I'm put a couple on either side to make sure it stays. And now I'm going to have a look and see if I can match up. I should be able to match up. This zipper start and stop with the marks I just made on the side of the panel, main panel. And I'm going to put some clips on either side. And do the same on this side. Okay, now I'm going to clip the rest of the way around in between. And when I get down here, I'm probably going to need to put some snips in the gusset to get it to go around the curve. But I'm going to work. I am not going to put snips in my zipper. I will just try and make the zipper fit. So I'm bending it around kind of bending it around my finger and put a clip in it. And I'll just keep doing that. If I need to move it and move those side start and stops down because the zipper is too long, then I will. That might actually give me more room for the gusset. But I'm not going to snip into my zipper. And if you're going to do snips into your gusset, don't do them very, like maybe 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, because we don't have a very big seam allowance. So I'm going to now spread this out. All right, the first part of this segment where I started here and stitched around did not record well. It was stopping and starting. So I'm hoping that this doesn't keep happening. I'm going to finish stitching around. So I backstitch at the beginning and I'll backstitch at the end. Take it slow around the corners, and then if you need to, use your stiletto. So I'm just going to keep on going. I'm on the 5 because we're basting this, so I'm on a 5 stitch length. I hope I covered everything. Right, there we go. I think we've caught everything. It looks okay. So I'm going to grab my other piece. So I need to grab one of the lining pieces, one of the zipper pocket lining pieces, and then I'm going to line it up, push everything in, and I'm going to line it up on the same side of the panel, same side of the gusset, I mean, and I'm going to start clipping. We got quite a lot of fabric in this location, so yeah. We've got a lot of layers to go through, so I don't know if I should have been binding this or if this is going to be fine. So as I clip around, I'm just pushing this the gusset in, and I'm going to try and do this without causing any puckers. So I'll go up, I'll push my zipper in and match up these top center parts. So there we go, and I'll just keep clipping all the way around, making sure that the zipper is inside, and as we stitch we'll have to make sure the zipper is inside. All right, time to stitch this up all the way around at the recommended seam allowance. So I think I'm going to start on the bottom because it's pretty flat. It's also pretty thick, so we want to make sure that we can get through everything. I'm just going to move that clip. I'm going to back stitch at the beginning and the end of the seam, and if I need any help getting around, use my stiletto. And we're stitching at a 3.5 stitch seam allowance, or 3.5 stitch length, if I didn't mention that before. All right, so now that we've stitched it all together, hopefully you opened your zipper pocket. I forgot to mention it before. So make sure you open your zipper pocket at least part way. I opened mine part way, and now I'm going to open it the rest of the way because we are going to turn this through the zipper pocket. I didn't want to open it all the way because I didn't want the zipper slider to get in the way of the of stitching around. So I don't think, because it's a small enough seam allowance, I don't believe we need to clip the curves. We'll see. I might have to turn it back right side out or inside out to check the curves. So I'm going to start pulling it through. I've stuck my hand in the pocket with the open, and I'm just going to start pulling it through. All right, let's keep going, turning this part of the bag right side out. Stick this back in for a minute. All right, so one of the suggestions I'm going to make is that under here, if you're doing vinyl and vinyl, faux leather, whatever, a whole bunch of things, in the instructions, if you want, you can take out the excess faux leather or whatever this panel is. You can take it out from behind here, and these corners are very thick, and I don't think it's going to turn out nicely, as nice as I wanted it to, because I should have taken some of that extra fabric away. So I think it's going to be fine. The bag will work. It'll be fine. It just won't be as nice on these corners as I had wanted it to be, because there's just way too much fabric in there. So when I make this one next time, I will be following the little tip. You don't have to take it out, but being that I have so much fabric in there and it's so thick, I think I will be removing the excess so that these seam allowances aren't so thick. So now we want to add our slip pocket, our lining panel with the slip pocket on it. And it needs to go right sides together with this. So with your bag lining side facing up, so gusset is pointing to the lining side, we are going to take the other piece and put it right side down, and we are going to match. I've got my notches marked at the top and bottom, and I'm going to line it up with that mark, and I'm going to put a clip in it, and I'll clip it on the gusset side. Now make sure when you're doing this part that you get it going the right way. I just finished putting all the clips in, and I had it the wrong way. I had this turned so that my piece was facing this. Don't do that. This piece needs to be part of the lining. So you're going to have a zipper pocket here and your slip pocket, if that's what you're doing, all on the same side. So I'm just going to go around and clip this in place. All right, I've got this all clipped on. All right, as I said, I've got it all clipped on. I'm going to start basting this on. I think I'm going to start at the side this time. Yes, here we go. Basting with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance with 5 stitch length. All the way around. Use your stiletto or screwdriver if you need to. And there we go. We've got the second lining panel on. So that's the inside. And there's the inside of this part of the bag. All right, moving it back over to the table angle. Now we want to add the wide gusset onto the bag, the part we just finished with. So we've got that center mark on the top and bottom already, and we need to turn this right side out. We are going to be lining up. There's a little mark right here. I'll make it a little darker. We're going to be matching that mark up with the center mark here. So we want the wide gusset to be inside out, and we are going to place zipper to zipper basically, and then we're going to clip. I'll clip out to the side, that in there, come to the bottom, and I am going to clip the middle bottom of the bottoms, the center of the bottoms together, and put a few clips out from either side. So I'm going to continue clipping, and I'm going to put up my clips facing the gusset because I will be sewing with my gusset right side up. If it helps at all, you can open your double zip, this one, if it helps. So, and cut and put snips into your wide gusset as needed. Also, I'm going to try to line up these seams with the side seam here. You won't be able to see it as much with the bottle holders on the sides as you would without them. So it's not going to be as noticeable if I don't get it exactly. So anyways, clip around all the way around, easing it in best you can. All right, I'm getting ready to baste this on. I'm going to baste this on and see how it goes. I'm just thinking of how much problem, because there's so much here with the base, with this pocket, that all needs to come through this other little zipper pocket. I'm debating whether or not I attach this and just bind it. I'm thinking that I may do that because I've picked really thick fabrics and I'm not sure I can get it through that second pocket. So I'm going to think about it while I'm basting this piece on, but I may end up changing. I was only going to do the very back piece bound, but I'm thinking I might do this one bound as well. So back stitch at the beginning and the end of this seam, and I'm doing 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and size 5 stitch length. All right, I've made the decision. I'm going to actually put this on and bind it. So I had left the zipper pocket open so that we could turn through it. I have gone and stitched it closed. So now I'm going to place this piece on right side up so they're wrong sides together. And I'm going to match my center notches. Would have been ideal to do these all at the same time, but I didn't decide till just now. I'm going to use my fold over elastic to bind, and with this amount of fabric, with the thickness of what I have, even the binding is going to be tricky, but I don't believe I could get it through that. So when you're deciding what method you want to do to finish this off, You know, think about, if you don't want to bind, you want to birth, then make sure that you don't put really thick material in and have it really tough to turn out. Because this, when I turned that first part out, that was tough and my hands are hurting from that. Anyways, I'm just going to keep clipping around this until I have this piece on. I'm going to go back, and I won't be turning the camera angle around. I'll just go and do it off camera. The stitching of this piece on, because basically we would have put these two together before and I would have stitched them on at the same time. So I'm just going to be following the stitch line that I had before. All right, I've put this piece on, just basically did the same thing as we did before. Now I am going to put some binding on. So I'm using, as I mentioned before, fold over elastic, which doesn't usually fray. Like the sides certainly don't fray, the ends might. So I would fold it under and then fold it over the edge. So this fold over elastic has a mark down the center, almost like a center seam, but it's not stitched. So I'm just going to fold it over, and then I'm going to try and place that center mark. I don't know if you can see it. I can't tell. I'm going to place that center mark in the center of the seam. So make sure that you've cleaned up any excess. Like I had excess elastic on the side, I've cleaned that up. So I'm going to just clip it in place, and I'm going to go around, and being that this is fold over elastic, I'm going to stretch it a bit. Not a lot, because I don't want it to pucker when we turn it in, turn the bag right side out, but enough to make it go around the curves nicely, hug the curves. So I'm going to just go around and clip this all. And as I get to the zipper, I'm going to try and not come too far over the zipper. So I don't want to interfere with the function of the zipper. So I want to make sure that this stays out of the way. So when I get down to the end, I'm going to overlap it. So I'm going to cut the fold over elastic and clean up the end. I'm going to pull it fairly tight around the curve so it hugs the curve. And now I'm going to come over, I'm going to fold this end over, and I'm going to overlap them. I'd like them as clean as possible, like as even as possible, but I'm not too worried if they aren't even, because this is the inside of the bottom of the inside of the bag. So if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Very few people look at the binding on the inside of a bag, so I'm not too worried about that. All right, so I've got it on. Pretty good. I don't want it wants to pop away from this seam. I don't want it popping away, but I also don't want it overlapping the zipper. All right. All right, flip the camera around, and I am going to start trying to stitch this. I've also changed my thread to be black to try and match as well as possible. So I'm going to try and stitch it like this. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing and the bag doesn't get in the way too much. If it does, I apologize. There's not a whole lot I can do about that. Not sure any camera angle is going to be any better. All right, so like I said, somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 inch. And I'm going to start over here. And I've got it on, I'm going to use the joining 3.5 stitch length to stitch this on. Well, I'm glad I used thread that matches because it's all over the place, but otherwise it looks pretty good if you don't look too closely at that, which most people won't because it'll be right side out like this. And as I mentioned before, I don't really like putting binding by zippers, but I don't seem to have a problem with my zippers, so that's good. All right, now we're moving on to the back panel. So I have gone ahead and I used some of that Gunold KK 100 or whatever it was, the temporary adhesive. I sprayed some on that, some of that on my foam, and I've applied it centered on my back exterior panel piece. I also put a little on this side, so it's a little tacky, not very much, but to hold it to the back lining piece. And I want to line up these pieces, and I'm going to pop some clips all the way around. All right, and now I'm just going to, off camera, take it over to my machine, and I'm going to baste all the way around this piece with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, my size 5, my 5 stitch length. You don't need to watch me. I'm going to put it with my waterproof canvas up because, as I've mentioned before, this part is stretchy, so the feed dogs will help pull it through and keep it consistent all the way around. And then when I'm done that, I'll come back and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, I'm back and I've got this all basted, so it's all one piece now. Couple of things to mention: make sure that your flaps are indeed in. You want to make sure your D-rings are flattened, and make sure that your zipper isn't going to get hit with your machine when you go by. My zipper slider isn't long enough, but if you have one that's longer, it could get caught. So if you want to do it this side up so you can see all these things, do it that way. I wanted it to make sure everything was pretty even, and I think it did a pretty good job. So just as I was going around, I had to make sure that these were out of the way of my stitching. All right, so we need to find the center. So I'm going to find the center of the top, folding it in half and taking a snip. And the bottom would be fun with so much foam in it. I'm just going to snip into the center of that so I see where the center is. So now we're going to, before I forget, we need to add this piece. Before we stitch this together, we need to add this piece. So I'm going to find the center, try and find the center of this as well. So yeah, we want it right sides together along the back. I'm going to clip it in place, and I'm going to go off camera, and I'm going to just baste this in place. Okay, so there we go. I've got it basted in place. I've also did back stitching along there to just try and reinforce it a bit. So now I want to take this panel, roll up what I can of these straps so they don't get in the way. I'm going to turn this face in downward. So what we're seeing on the outside is all the exterior or the interior of the bag. This is all lining. So we're putting basically right sides together, and then I'm going to start clipping around. So this is going to get quite thick, and I'm glad we're binding it. All right, so go down to the bottom and match up the center notch at the bottom. And yeah, I should be putting the clips in towards the gusset. I might have to flip some around. All right, I think I'm going to start across the top. I think I can get that under my needle properly. So I'm going to stitch across with the recommended seam allowance. Back stitching at the beginning and the end of the seam, taking it slow and using my stiletto or my screwdriver as I need to. All right, let's go. All right, so having a better look at this bag, I think there's some spots that are very close to missing here because this side slipped and it's kind of come further out than our stitch line, or than this piece. So then our stitch line's really close to the edge. So I'm going to clean this up, and then I'm going to come along here a little better. I'm going to just do it off camera. For now, I'm just going to clean up some of this elastic. So we need all of this stuff cleaned up before we actually put the binding on, because it can get in the way of the binding. And I'm just going to, off camera, fix this up, and then we will put, oh, we need to clean this up too, and then we will put the binding on. All right, I've got it all cleaned up. I'm going to start putting on the binding. It's exactly the same as what I did before. So I'm just going to start folding it over and applying it. Probably going to fast forward through most of this. And then we will turn around when I'm done and stitch it on. All right, I love my cylinder arm machine, but the one time I don't like it is when I've got a huge amount of bag that I have to try and manipulate around and it wants to hang off. I don't know if it's going to be any better without the table. I think maybe I'll give that a try. I'm going to take the table off and see if it's any better, because if I had a flatbed, I'd just lay it down and do that, but it just keeps wanting to catch on the edges, and then I struggle with it. So I'm going to take the table off and see how it goes. All right, the table is off. I'm going to start at the top again and see how it goes. And again, I'm doing a little more, somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 inch seam allowance so that I can try and catch both sides. And I'm at 3.5 stitch length. The one thing that's really good about this method is I can feel both sides of the binding, and I can feel if it's coming away from the bottom side. So. All right, so it looks okay. I'm still working on binding. Binding is not my forte. All right, time to turn this bad boy inside out, or right side out. All right, finding the zippers. I'm just using my nail to try and separate them. And then I'm going to grab parts and start turning it right side out. Okay, after all of that, I got this on the wrong way. So this is upside down. So I'm going to go off camera and fix this. I'm not going to try and do it on camera. I'm thinking I should be able to open up this seam here. I'm hoping I can open up this seam here, flip this over, and then stitch it up again. All right, but otherwise, yeah, it's a big bag, and this is the smaller version. Wayfarer 2.0 is larger. So anyways, I'm going to try and do that to fix that piece, and then I will be back so we can finish off the rest of the bag. All right, I pulled this piece apart for the strap. At least I got to straighten it out a bit, but it's not great. I missed catching some of the spots. So when you're putting this piece on, so I figured out what I did wrong. I attached this piece to the back here. In the instructions, I was supposed to put it face down against this. So if you are attaching, it shouldn't matter which one you attach it to, but if you attach it to the back, put it face up. So if you attach it like I did, like to this back piece, put it with this stuff up. If you're going to follow the instructions and you're putting it against this piece, then it goes face down. All right, this is our very last step. So I split this webbing. I pointed my female end down and my D-ring up, and I tried to stitch right along that seam line. I used black on the top and red on the bottom. I got pretty close. The webbing did slide a bit, but it'll be fine. So I've got two of them. I'm going to slip on my 1-inch sliders. So from each end, I'm just going to stick the end up one side, over the bar in the middle, and down the other side, and pull it up. I'm going to take my swivel hook. This is 1-inch swivel hook. And I want it to be facing up. So I've got my sliders with the top on the top part of the webbing. So I'm going to now just slide my swivel hook onto it like that. So they're sitting on top of the straps. Now I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to flip it over so it's, or flip it like this, so its wrong side is over here. So I'm going to come around from the wrong side. I'm going to go up the far side of the tri-glide or slider, and then back down the other side. And I'm going to pull it approximately the amount that it says in the instructions. And then we're going to fold it and then fold it down like that. I'm going to clip it. I'm going to try and keep it lined up. There we go. So do this again on this side. So I've got this slider facing me. And I've got the swivel hook on this side. So this is the top. This is the top of my strap, the top of my slider, and then the top of my swivel hook. I'm going to take the other side. Take the other side. Going to push. So pull some of the webbing towards me. I'm going to take this other side and I'm going to go up the one side, curve around, and come back down the other side and give it approximately what they say in the instructions, the length of webbing. I folded it back on itself because we don't want any of that fraying. It was doing some fraying before, so I don't want it to continually fray. So I'm going to put clips in it to try and keep it even with the sides. So then I'm going to just go in. I'm going to do it off camera because I still have to switch out my threads again. And I'm just going to stitch. It suggests to stitch a box. If I can get a box, I will. Otherwise, I'm just going to do 2 lines and back and forth, 3.5 stitch length. And I'm just going to do 2 lines and tack these in place. So I'll do that off camera and then we'll come back. All right, I've got these on. I had some tension issues, so I didn't record it. So yeah, I've got these on now. We can pull this out. We can pop this together. And then we can either choose to put both swivel hooks on one side or a sling as a sling, so you can pick either side, or we can separate them and separate the zipper here, and now we have a backpack. So this is the I still have some massaging to do, but anyways, this is the Wayfarer Sling Backpack. This is the smaller version. There is a 2.0. There have been updates recently to this pattern, so yeah, so go check out this pattern, and yeah, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you could subscribe to my channel, it would be greatly appreciated, and any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below.